what does he have to do with this?
Let anything, you know what I'm talking about. Let anything. Nah, I don't have to say it right now. Don't worry about it. I don't got to say it up here. Let anything happen. And I'm going to show you and him. Bet.
In shape, 145.
Yeah.
In shape. You know what I mean? So this is different from a Crawford coming up to 168, but we know his walk around weight is probably 170, 180.
The fight that I couldn't believe, that was too insane and honestly just baffling to think would be a real fight in 2025, reminds you that combat sports are the craziest sports on the planet.
There was chaos at the press conference for the fight between Gervonta Davis and Jake Paul. What was meant to be normal build-up turned into a full-on fight. Davis lost it when people asked him why he chose to fight Paul instead of someone with a better ranking. At the same time, Paul jumped on personal problems and made fun of Davis's background, which made things more tense until censors stepped in.
I'm going to outbox, and truly when people run back this press conference, all the shit talk, all the fun, they're going to be like, wow, this kid really is doing something monumental in the sport, and he's actually an insane boxer, and I'm going to show that this guy who's been doing it his whole life has been doing it wrong his whole life.
What'd you say, Tank?
He said he gonna outbox me. Whoop-de-doo.
The one thing, when you have a fight of this magnitude, especially with Jake, because his appeal has been global. For you, Tank, do you think this is one of those fights where now all of a sudden you can show your boxing skills on a global scale to maybe people who weren't interested in boxing? All of a sudden they say, well, who is this guy?
Yeah, it's actually like, you know, now that I'm looking at it now, it's just like, I don't know, probably this was a good thing.
The conversation was not friendly from the start. Paul, who is 6'1", towered over Davis, who is 5'5", a graphic representation of the size difference that has been the subject of much pre-fight talk. Paul used the difference in height and reach to promote himself, saying that he would keep Davis away with his length and size. Davis, on the other hand, leaned on his famous speed and said that the difference in size wouldn't matter once the fight got going. Davis was a lightweight champion and used to fighting shorter opponents. The fighters' huge differences in size were one of the main points of conflict. A lot of people, including well-known Muay Thai supporters, called the match unfair or even a clown show before it even began. Davis was an accomplished and unbeaten lightweight champion going into the fight. He is being matched against a social media worker who has become a boxer and naturally fights at much heavier weights. There is some discussion about whether or not the fight is real because it is called an exhibition and not a normal professional title fight.
Paul won the fight, but yeah, that was that. This time Jake Paul is to take on Tank Davis. Tank Davis, he was recently in the news for being arrested for a domestic violence incident involving one of his kids' mother. He was alleged to have slapped her about the place. The charges were later dropped, to be fair to him, but yeah, that was when he was last in the news. What is interesting is just a couple of months ago, Tank Davis was saying openly that he'd lost his passion for boxing and that he wanted time away from the sport. There was speculation that he might even retire as he was experiencing extreme mental fatigue from boxing, depression, and there were mental health concerns over him. However, I guess the opportunity to earn a truck full of money fighting a completely worthless exhibition fight against Jake Paul was enough to make him change his mind about boxing. Funny that, isn't it? But you know what? I'm not even going to waste your time or mine critiquing this utter nonsense. Suffice to say that this so-called fight we're talking about is an exhibition, and it pits Jake Paul, who is a cruiserweight, by the way, weighs in excess of 200 pounds, and Tank Davis, who is, he was the WBA lightweight champion, who weighs in at about 135 pounds when he fights. So that's a disparity of some 65 pounds. In old money, that's about 4.5 stone. There's also a significant difference in height. Jake Paul is roughly, 6'1", 2. Gervonta Davis is 5'5" at best. So, there's a height disparity there of some 8 inches. And once again, this is Jake Paul showing total disrespect to boxing, in my opinion. Once again, continued to pimp out the sport for his own financial ends. And worse still, the powers that be in boxing allowing him to get away with it and facilitating this utter bullshit. And meanwhile, what's even worse about this is that meanwhile, the WBA lightweight title that Tank Davis should be defending against Lamont Roach in a rematch. I mean, they fought back in March.
There's no doubt that Paul loves drama and making people think. And the news conference was planned to make moments that go viral. The clown joke, the pushing, and the legal accusations were all digs. Each piece added to an environment that was more like a reality show fight than a normal boxing press event. Reports said the news conference was just a bunch of no's that didn't mean anything and was more of a show than anything else.
Perspective. But again, if it makes dollars, it makes sense. And we've seen that Jake will kind of bounce in between doing these entertainment fights and then, trying to push toward his goal of ingraining himself in the sport of boxing, and kind of does both of them. So it's kind of a weird place to be, because he wants the respect of the boxing fans and the boxing hierarchy and hardcore boxing people, but at the same time, he'll gain some of that and then lose some of it. It's like a seesaw of his fights. Like one fight and be like, okay, that's a real fight, or that's a real fight. And he'll go and he'll win the fight. Julio Cesar Chavez, real fighter, maybe past his prime, whatever, but Jake goes and wins that fight pretty easily, and then gets a lot of respect, gets a lot of the boxing hardcore love. And you have these talks about him fighting Anthony Joshua, and that was going to get even more respect. More people were like, that's fucking crazy. What are you doing? Myself included. That seemed like a massive risk, but a lot of people were like, okay, fair play. Anthony Joshua, that's a real heavyweight. Jake wants to fight him. He's a psycho, but fair play. And then you announce this one, and it's like, well, that's the same thing people have been saying about Jake for years, so it's a weird spot to be in for him for sure. But I talked about this not being the first choice, and I don't think it was, because Coppinger reports next that talks for Jake Paul to face Anthony Joshua collapsed over network issues. Now, we had all heard the talks, and they were pretty public, from Eddie Hearn, from Jake. Nakisa Badarian, Jake's manager, was over in the UK on, I think, Sky Sports, talking about the fight and saying how it was a real possibility and they were really starting to work on it.
Keith Thurman saw sharp irony in the fact that people who criticize Gervonta Davis help him. He's right, too. The people who always say bad things about Davis's shows are also the ones who never miss his fights. A lot of people watch him box, even though they say his skills aren't up to par. Thurman says that by paying attention to Davis, even if it's bad attention, they're making him more famous and important. Their complaints make him more famous, so they are actually supporting him without meaning to. In short, they make his name better the more they try to bring him down.
If you're really not happy with Tank, first off, don't watch Tank. Don't do it. You know what I'm saying? You support it, then what you doing? You can't not support and support at the same time, right? So if you're a boxing purist, then this fight with Roach is really more for you. It's going to be more up your alley, If you just like all entertainment, all fights, all hypes, all everything, then you're going to want to tune in to the Tank and Paul show there, because that's all for entertainment. What is it? For entertainment purposes only, right? It's just say like somewhere in the small print of the promotion. For entertainment, don't do this at home, kids. So fine.
Disclaimer.
Yeah, disclaimer. For entertainment purposes only, So, it's money-making purposes only. It is what it is, people.
Stephen A. Smith strongly disagreed with the recent trend of mismatched exhibition fights, such as Paul versus Mike Tyson. He said Paul was upset and even horrified, and Paul called out the mismatch more directly. He told Paul over and over that he needed to fight real people, not retired sports or stars who were past their best. Stephen A. did say some bad things about Paul, but he did praise his ability to promote the sport and the attention it gets. But he made it clear that if he wants to build credibility, he needs to fight real modern boxing ability. However, Smith also had a strong reaction to the unusual tie between Davis and Lamont Roach in March. He stressed how important Davis's long and impressive record was and shot down any suggestions that criticism was fair. In his opinion, Davis had shown real championship poise by not giving in to doubt or dispute. People saw his quick agreement to a rematch as the sign of a fighter who was sure of his position and eager to prove his dominance at the top level.
Jake Paul is a professional. At some point in time, I don't give a damn if it's a light heavyweight. Better be a Bivol, a super middleweight, Canelo, Mexican Monster, David Benavidez, somebody that actually has a reputation. The time has come for Jake Paul to step into the ring with a cat who actually boxes for a living and give us that fight. I appreciate the fact of him promoting. I appreciate him having the cachet as a former YouTuber turned boxer. I like Jake Paul. I respect Jake Paul. I'm just saying, because I like him and because I respect him, I want to see him in the ring. And I don't want to hear, I know his numbers are better, but then he gonna say, I don't need Canelo, Canelo needs me. Well, wait a minute. It ain't just about popularity, bruh.
He thought Davis was one of the 3 best boxers in the world and praised his strength, skill, and ability to knock out opponents. Tank is a world champion and a well-known boxing star. Jake Paul, on the other hand, is mostly known for his YouTube videos and is new to boxing, having come from the entertainment industry. If a well-known and respected champion fought a fighter with so little experience or skill, it could hurt his image. So Smith said Tank should be ashamed of this game because it's not even close to Tank's level. Rolly Romero thinks that Paul vs. Davis on Netflix is a big draw, especially for younger people in the US. He says that Canelo vs. Crawford will be very exciting for fans in Mexico and Latin America, that the Paul Davis show will be more popular in the United States, especially among people under 20. Romero thinks that both fights make boxing more popular, which is good for the sport. He thinks the Canelo vs. Crawford fight is more exciting from a sporting point of view, but he thinks the Paul vs. Davis fight will have more impact in the US.
All of a sudden, we want to know who will win in this fight, Jake Paul or Tank Davis. It's a legit question, and I actually want to really hear your thoughts on who do you think is going to win, because I know what Vegas is saying, but I want to know what you think. You got
Personally, I think Tank too little, bro.
Yo,
I think Tank too little.
I'm so glad you have a brain on your fucking shoulder.
I think Tank
the
too
way
little.
I did, I said, bro.
I think Tank's too little. That's what I'm saying. At weight classes for a reason.
Davis
That weight class for a reason.
5'5", 135 pounds. Jake Paul is 6 feet, 205
That's what I'm saying.
Bro.
He's too
6'1",
little.
205. Everybody's like, yeah, bro, but Tank it only takes one good punch. Yes, it takes one good punch when you're about the same size. There's a 60, 70 pound difference in weight in these people. I don't think nobody puts the physics in mind. Jake Paul gets punched in the face by dudes 200 pounds with all their might on a weekly basis. 135-pound puncher, bro. If y'all remember the Mayweather versus Conor McGregor fight, Conor walks around like 180 on the regular. He's like 5'9", 180. Mayweather's like 5'7", 145. That 30-pound, 20, 30-pound difference, bro. If you remember that fight, Mayweather was putting mittens on Conor. Guess what happened to Conor? He didn't hit the ground once.
No.
He lasted all 12 rounds getting hit with flurries. I'm talking about Mayweather was having his time. He's being cocky with it, hitting him with all kind of combos. And we're watching the last 3 rounds of that shit like, yo, knock him out. And you know what? He could not knock him out because Conor gets punched by people that are 170, 180 pounds on a regular. And just that 20, 30 pound difference, it was like impossible for him to do anything. And that's exactly what I feel like is going to happen versus Jake and Tank.
In the middle of all the talk about Tank boxing Paul, WBC lightweight champion Shocker Stevenson sent Davis a harsh message. Stevenson said Davis's decision to seek an exhibition fight with Paul was disrespectful to the sport. He said Davis should have fought a real rival like himself if he really wanted to be taken seriously. Stevenson was sure he was the best fighter in his division, so he asked Davis to fight him instead to prove it. Eddie Chambers, a former heavyweight contender, gave Jake Paul a harsh warning before his fight with Gervonta Davis. He said that Paul's regular opponents haven't prepared him for what's coming. Chambers said that Davis is fast, has knockout power, and is very smart in the ring, all of which are traits that Paul has rarely seen in an opponent. He said that most of Paul's past wins were over older or less experienced fighters, while Davis is a completely different type of boxer. Chambers thinks Paul needs to step up his game a lot or risk being hurt by Davis's superior skills and ability to think quickly under pressure.
Something like this can happen, but this is social media, this is what is created. There's a lane that Jake Paul has created. Honestly, I'm not mad at him for it. He's gotten a lot of fighters and, actual fighters some shine. It also has done for women's boxing a lot. So I'm not mad at him for what he's been in boxing, what he's created. This is a little crazy right here. This is a little crazy. And a lot of people will say, Tank is too small. Let me tell you something. Anybody that gets in the ring with Tank that is not a damn dinosaur is gonna feel something from him. And it ain't gonna be easy to hit him. Got boxing IQ. He may not sound like an intellectual guy when you hear him talk, but he knows the ring inside and out. So there's nothing that Jake Paul can do aside from make it extremely ugly by grabbing him and probably trying to throw him to the ground. I don't know what else, bite him. I don't know, but I mean, the skill level alone. Now, of course, there is a size difference, a height difference, and all that, but he's just gonna struggle so much landing a shot. It's just gonna look bad. To me, this is the way I see it. It's gonna look bad. Tank is gonna be too fast. And the punch, I believe, I'm not saying it's gonna knock him out but he's gonna feel it.
Experts are very critical of the fight between Jake Paul and Gervonta Davis, saying it's more of a show than a game. Many people say that the fight is more about big money and clickbait than about real competition. They say it's a greedy, cartoonish sideshow where traditional boxing ideals like skill, honor, and tradition are being given up for money and attention on social media. These people think that this change is a letdown from the sport's long past and the seriousness that used to define the sweet science.
Keep it solid with you. I'm not a fan of this matchup at all. You got Gervonta Davis, who's been eating county jail spreads for the last month and a half, and he didn't look good in his last fight against Roach, where he had a draw, but most people felt like he got his ass tapped, so he needs the money. Then you got Jake Paul, who gets to beat on a nigga a whole foot shorter than him and 100 pounds lighter than him. And I think this is just nasty work. This screams money grab. And then you know what? The fans lose in the end on this one. Netflix wins, Jake Paul wins, and Tank wins. We lose. Nasty work.
The event promoter Eddie Hearn said, "It blurs the line between genuine sport and pure entertainment." This was one of the harshest criticisms of the Jake Paul vs. Gervonta Davis fight. Tassarn insisted that boxing loses its character when it turns into a show rather than a game. This matchup doesn't seem like a real title fight to him. Instead, it seems like a business-driven event designed to get hits and pay-per-views instead of great boxing. If these kinds of fights become common, they could hurt the reputation of boxing because fans would expect promo drama instead of real competition. Many people don't like the fact that Jake Paul and Gervonta Davis are going to fight soon. There are a lot of jokes about how bad the fight is. Paul usually fights at around 200 pounds, but Davis participates at 135 pounds, which led to claims of weight bullying. Some critics say this difference makes boxing less legitimate, while others think it's silly and compare it to amateur theater or even professional wrestling. However, there is a different story that praises Davis for putting money first and admitting that he isn't trying to please purists, but to get a big payday.
Beat Jake Paul, shouldn't he?
No, he shouldn't.
You don't think? Sorry. So, I thought we were all unanimous here. You think that Jake Paul beats Gervonta Davis?
70 pounds is 70 pounds.
Gervonta Davis is very small. 5'5".
He's tiny, bro.
That's
what I'm saying.
Jake Paul,
he's a little man.
If Jake Paul's tucking up,
move on,
and absorbing punishment for walking forward.
Do you think that this fight between Davis and Paul will make boxing better or worse? Write something below.